like the things you were mentioning was fit right in that category where you want to build businesses that like have security, meaning like, hey, the boring part's the security part to it, right? Where it's like, these are they're going to stand the test of time. Land's going to stand the test of time. And so things of that nature, you're kind of thinking about those. But I agree. I have moved my model from being like, I'm really passionate about fitness to being like, I'm passionate about I enjoy building businesses, but I'm going to build businesses with very specific security in them. And COVID really taught me that. COVID taught me that I need to build security into being from the gym industry. I think a lot of us are like, we need to have more security. And so that's why I chose home services as my SEO agency instead of fitness businesses, because fitness businesses aren't as secure as home services are. We chose a SaaS company, GHL, a Go High Level. We built a Go High Level agency because it's an up and coming software that we can build SaaS into and create a sticky product that can last a long, long time. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Brotherhood Beyond Business podcast. Today we're going to talk about adjusting your vision. When your vision doesn't align long term, it changes for you, and the confidence to modify your vision, because sometimes when we think about vision, it's like, this is what I'm going to do for the next 10 years. And then 3 years into it completely changes. And like you hear business coaches say, adjust your vision. Other ones say, don't adjust your vision. So it's kind of understand those things. Both me and Joe have gone through some massive vision changes over the years. We've attacked bigger visions, shrunk those visions, modified those visions. And it's awesome for the sense that like it's continued growth, but it's kind of a mental, like overcoming it mentally too, because you feel like a failure. And I would say a lot of people that I follow say you need to fail many times. Think of like somebody like President Trump, like I don't know how many businesses went bankrupt that he's had, right? And a lot of famous people, like billionaires, have had bankrupt businesses over time. That's a failure that they don't see as like lost money. They see as an experience for them to gain what they needed for that next step. But it's still really hard in the moment to say, oh man, I failed at this, and then overcome those things that you fail at. So me and Joe are just going to discuss this as our visions over time that have changed, still trying to figure out where we're going next. And I kind of think about it in the way that I have like more of like a 2 to 3 year vision now than a bigger, longer term vision. I think I have a 20-year vision for the man I want to be, but the business that I am creating is always kind of changing at such a scale that like I'm probably not more than I'm probably maybe not more than a year out in many ways in my vision, because I'm still in that, I'm obviously in a new industry for myself. And so because of that, still trying to understand that industry. But I do have like a 20-year vision of the man I want to be, which is making sure that I'm consistent, I'm a good human, those kind of things. Like that's never going to change because it's the person I'm trying to become. But my business changing on scale, that is a part that I always kind of thought I had to have a longer term plan for. But the longer term I built that plan out, the harder as I moved down that road to that vision, the less that vision was exciting or really what I wanted to do. I just put something on paper. So that's what we're going to discuss today. Joe, kind of go through that a little bit. What goes through your head on that?
I feel like it's like I want to tell a story. Like I was in my head while you were talking, I was thinking like, Trevor, what I met you, like I'm going to kind of bounce it back to you just because we're freestyling this. I just met you at a mastermind meeting. We're going out to eat, right? This is where we met. This is how we met, in Greenville, South Carolina. And you were explaining to me how you had a business partner. And to me, I was like, I would never do that. I'm whatever, because I knew everything. And, but at that point in time, like, what was your vision for professionally? Let's just say, I guess personally too. But
let's stay on the professional side, because the personal side gets too broad. Let's stay on the business side of things.
So, what was at that point? I just, we just met. We've been in that meeting all day for about 8 hours, right? Trying to better our business, learning about other people we just met. Now we're going out to eat because I feel like that's where we always got to talk the most. What was your can you remember what your vision was then for your business?
Oh yeah. I actually, at that time, I had 2 business partners. I had 2 different locations at that time. So I had just launched, well, maybe at that time I was in the process of building the second location. I don't know if that was launched at that point, but first of all, I always wanted business partners because I do so much better sacrificing for others than I do for myself. Meaning, like, I get so stressed in the best of ways if I'm not hitting my goals when I'm failing others. But if I'm failing myself, it's kind of like, well, whatever. But so business partners have always driven me, given me a lot, just like my wife drives me. I do a lot of things because I want to be great for my wife. I want to be great for
Mm-hmm.
my business partners as well. And at that time, the goal was 5 to 10 locations, right? We were always dreaming big at that point. I had seen another successful business do that where they had multiple locations. And I just had I knew the person well, and I knew I was just as good at business in that as them. So it's like, man, there's nothing that they do. And I had resources. My dad is in a good financial position, so I was able to scale if I needed to on that side. So I was like, I got all these things in my bucket. And so at that point, just kind of going from like where I was thinking at that time, I was looking at that time. I remember talking about 5 locations, but we were actually had modeled our model was going towards small towns. Like, could we put these little businesses in these small towns, build these awesome communities, be the only facility in these small towns? And I'm not saying small towns, I'm saying like 10,000 people or less,
Mm-hmm.
and just dominate these small little local towns. You could put those all throughout the United States. There's so many small towns. That was the model because I'd seen somebody do really, really well in a small town. I was like, I could do that. And I know I'd be good at that. But I won't go into what changed in that vision right now, but that's kind of what that initial vision was. How about you, Joe?
I mean, I would say it was very, very similar. For me, it was I got an opportunity to open a business over a lunch conversation with a family member on like a trial basis. And we were able to make it successful, to a point where I could leave my full-time job and start working it. And that all happened without a vision. My vision was always I was going to own a business. And then my schooling path took me down the fitness side of things. And then that is what kind of led to me opening that type of business. But when I met you at that dinner, I mean, I already thought I was, because we had been invited to this group, right? And this was our higher level group. Like, I thought I was hot shit. Um, then there's so much I didn't know. But back then, I would say my vision was it always seemed really sexy and important and powerful to have multiple locations. That was going to be it. It was going to be probably at least 5 locations, but you always have people who juice your ego up because they're like, hey, have you ever thought about franchising? And it's like, you have no idea what that entails and how little money it makes you until you hit a certain number of locations and the amount of time that's required to do it the right way.
And me, and Danny actually even talked about franchising together at one time. So
Yeah, we just didn't know what we didn't know, but that the part of multiple locations did not change. I mean, let's say that was, I don't know how many years ago that was. What was that, like 2015 maybe, or something? What would that would make it 10
when
years
we
ago?
first met at that meeting, that was 2016.
16. So that was, yeah, like nine years ago. And I don't think that vision changed for 8 years after that. Like it stayed the same. It was right. It was always about growth, and trying to make more money for my family. And the way to do that, and also have fulfilling work, helping people. And the way to do that was growing my first location and then replicating that at other locations. Always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, for me, that my second location, I closed that. Well, I didn't technically close it. I sold it, got out of that part of it, like 3 years into it,
Mm-hmm.
because it was like the amount of effort it would take that to another, continue to build that out to the profitability it needed to be, was like, we thought at the time we could just take our current systems, put it in another business, and boom, it would be good. And there was just so many other obstacles and so much more effort needed. And my one obstacles I had, mine were 6 hours apart. 7 hours apart, yeah. So 7 hours apart. So it's a big. I couldn't just like go over to the other one and help out. It's like I had to like have my business partners really detailed in. And in that part, my business partners weren't as hungry as I was on either location. My business partners at either location weren't as hungry as I was, and I
Mm-hmm.
needed to replicate my hunger. That was like, honestly, for the growth that I needed for these individual locations, I needed somebody as hungry as I was, to be able to, like, because growth takes hunger. Really, it does. It takes more than anything. It takes hunger to want to grow. And so I think that was the obstacle with those locations specifically. Was I the systems are great. They can, I mean, most gyms can run off most systems. It's like, who's hungry enough to spread the message enough to grow the gym. And so that changed my vision super fast after I realized, okay, in that time frame, that wasn't going to work. So then I had to, like, in many ways, reinvent my vision like 3 years into that.
Yeah, and I learned that with our business and probably with a lot of other businesses, those systems can be in place but they're probably not as good as you think they are because you've been the one running them or at least overseeing them at your current location, at least with your first location. But it does help you improve those things. And there's a couple different ways you can approach having multiple locations. And I was never in the cash position to do the second one at the time. So think about folks who tend to open franchises like F45. Not everybody, but a lot of them are private investors. And so the clients may never meet the owners of these businesses, but it's those investors are willing to lose money for a number of years in order to become profitable at a certain point. And it's likely that if they don't make their profit, they don't start becoming profitable and seeing a return at that point, they'll probably sell the business. But they do so in a manner that allows them to have a full schedule right out the gate, or have a full product offering, full manufacturing line, whatever it is, and a full staff. And that's expensive as it, takes time, right? You've always got a big boom in business when you first open from early adopters. And then those people are going to start falling off after all the discounts and deals go away that a lot of people offer when they first open a business. And then you got to really start to market. And you got to bring people in after they're used to seeing you around and you're not as big of a deal anymore. And I think for a lot of businesses, that requires loss because of losing those early adopters. And it's a matter of how long you're willing to stick that out with your full staff, with your full schedule, or whatever the business is. Or are you willing to start this? Are you in a good enough position that your first location can fully run without you, and you can go bootstrap it again at this second location, right? Not with the full staff. You're there. You're the face of that business, whether it's a consulting business. Let's say you're a financial investor or a financial like guidance person, like counselor, whatever it is. Are you willing to go there and work those long hours again to build something up at a second location, and then start to slowly hand it off over time and not take a paycheck because you're taking your paycheck from the first location? So I feel like those are the two main ways to do it. You can be in a cash position where you can continue to put cash in so that you'll see a future return while you're taking losses up front. And you do that by offering a full speed business. Or you can go in there and sacrifice your time and redo everything that you did at the first one, right? Like start over again. And I opened that second one being naive enough to think that the first one could run without me. And it ran pretty well. Like it maintained pretty well. And there was some initial growth. There was some initial like aches and pains to deal with the clientele, with me, being the main person in the business and kind of starting to step back and opening that second one. Because mine was only like 20, 30 minutes away, but it still felt like a long ways to go. But what I didn't want to do, or at least I thought I wanted to, and then I got into it and I wasn't willing to do, was go back to square one and be the guy that's there all the time and be away from my family. Because, I started my business, we had one child who was maybe like 5 or 6 when we opened, to now having 3 kids when I opened my second one and having my first daughter. And it was just really weighing on my family. So that changed. It just hit one day where it was like, well, we're getting by. The first one can float the second one where the second one is lacking, because the second one took off. And then over time, it started kind of ticking down, mainly because I wasn't there enough. I needed to be the face of it. People want to know the owner of a lot of these service-based businesses. And my vision started to change because I was like, it's not that I'm lazy, although I thought that all the time. I'm not willing to decrease the amount of time that I have available for my kids, or decrease the amount of time that I have available for my wife, or when I need to be home. And that led to me closing that second one. That was ultimately it. It was the family aspect of things. And also advice from others who had done it, been through it, in my mastermind groups, and learning how successful they were at their first location. But I think the hardest part of that shift especially as a man, right? Because we draw so much purpose from our professional lives and what we're trying to create and build and provide for our family with, that when that changes, it's like you got a little void somewhere in there that you're trying to figure out what to do with it. And then once you figure it out and you're happy, like life is great having one location now. All problems are less problematic after you go from 2 to 1, or you go from a lot to less, right? You learn how to deal with things differently, but there's still days, probably every day, where I think to myself, why couldn't I get that done? I see this person doing it over here. I'm easily as competent as they are. Why couldn't I get that done? I can tell myself the right things, right? Like, you made this decision for your family. You weren't willing to invest the time at that point. Maybe you do it again one day. Maybe you shift to something different, but it's still just this constant struggle of like, was I just being lazy? I think I made the right decision, but could I have still toughed it out a little bit longer and not sacrificed too much for my family? Or could I have sacrificed more with my family that would have paid off later? I guess those are like living in the what ifs, but it's with this specifically, it's always that thought process. And you still got hey, I got a battle scar, like some of those big business owners like Donald Trump and all the successful people you hear about in the world who screw up. But it's just constant. I don't know if it's doubt, it's that negative self-talk you got to overcome. It's just, why couldn't I get that done? I always saw myself achieving this through this fashion, and I didn't get it.
There's a couple of things that you said that, like, first of all, like with the cash idea,
Mm-hmm.
is the people that become billionaires the fastest, or like have the fastest growth to making a lot of wealth, are ones that had a wealth advantage. And so example would be like Shaquille O'Neal. Like Shaq is able to invest, buy a lot of franchises and stuff because he had the cash flow to buy these franchises. He runs none of these things. That's
Mm-hmm.
a component of like being able to like become wealthy, is like, can you, like you said, can you start off with a full staff? It runs itself in a sense. That's a huge advantage that most business owners will never have that advantage. So it's kind of tough sometimes when you see these people that are really wealthy and they either, one, were born with wealth and that allowed them to then buy more wealth, or two, they had an opportunity in something that paid a lot of money, like a sport, right? Gifted at something that pays high amount of money, and then they were able to intelligently go out and invest, but they weren't ones running these businesses, which is a whole different aspect than like us, who are actually physically building and serving these communities, right? That's one thing to like kind of think about when people are thinking about multiple locations kind of stuff, is some of the things that you see where somebody's like, oh, I became a billionaire because I own 30 Chick-fil-A franchises.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to invest in a Chick-fil-A franchise is super expensive cash flow up front. So because of that, it's like, hey, you've got to, like, those are equations that most people will never have the advantage to be able to do. And you have to be like, one, okay with that. I think for me, and when building franchise, I didn't know that. I didn't think about that equation at the time. I thought it was just, oh, these franchise people built these big franchises based on like good systems, good products, and then we just like, those will just naturally grow themselves. But the big obstacle that I ran into was marketing. One, having somebody, a great manager at those facilities, like a business partner that could run those. And two was the amount of money needed to market in the forefront of it to get it off the ground fast enough to be able to sustain that long-term gain. And the business partner part is really about retention, right? Their skill is retention and cash flow is growth. And so I think that's the beginning part that was out of there. But the second part was like talking about like the vision component of it. Is, I think as we age, though, like you said, like you feel like you're missing out, like you didn't finish the plan, right? You didn't, like, well, why
Mm-hmm.
couldn't I do those things? But I do think our vision changes as life changes, and knowing who you are as a man is really important in this equation. I think when I first started attacking the business world, the man I was then and the man I am now are way different humans, personally. I think internally I'm the same, like, core values person, but I wasn't married. I had no intentions at that point of getting married. Like, I wasn't like, I wanted to eventually get married, but like that wasn't my on my mind focus at the time. And so it's just grow, 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 grow. I saw everybody in the world growing. I'm like, I can do that. I can do that. Right. And so now I'm married. I moved states. In Illinois, there's nothing to do in your free time, literally nothing to do. So in terms of that, like, all I did is business. Now I live in the mountains. I can do so many things at the end of my day. I want to do those things. And
Yeah.
so like my life has completely changed in who I want to be in that way. And then I also have just taken time to realize, like, especially as I dove more into my faith over the last 3 years, is God's plan is not for me to be the richest man on earth. I have no desire for money. Money does not, like, I have never been driven by money at all. I've been driven by success, but not money. And
Mm-hmm.
so like it's never really moved the needle for me. So it's like, okay, if money doesn't drive me, and I know like the more I read through the Bible and learn that like my job, one of my responsibilities on earth is not to make the wealthiest business I can. It's to be involved in my community. It's to help lead others. I think that's what the Brotherhood Beyond Business is so I'm so passionate about it, because like it's leading men that can lead other men, right? Like you're leading people that can lead other communities, and that really jazzes me up. That really gets me excited versus like just making more money. So that's allowed me my vision now to completely transform from where it was when I was, well, I would have been 20 when we first met I probably been 28. And so 28, 29 maybe. And so at that point, my vision of where I was going was completely different than the man I was then and the man I am now are completely different. And I think that is important in your vision quest as we change over time. Because I know for you now, 3 kids compared to 1 kid, just
Mm-hmm.
starting a business, like it's finding things. I call it the passion-based business model, helping you design businesses that allow you to be passionate about them, but also be able to live the life you want. So it's a combination of life and business together. And so when these two have to be cohesive. So somebody like an Alex Ramosi, who I respect a ton, his life is not that way at all. His is like all business, minimal amount of life, right? That's not me as a man. That's just not who I am. That's not where I'm going in the life. And I'm not driven in that way at all. I think you're in the same category too, where you enjoy business, but you enjoy your family more, because that's what we were put on earth to do, is to
Mm-hmm.
take care and lead our families, and then also our communities. So I do think that vision has changed as we continue to like grow into that version of what God wants us to be. I think that also will change over time. And we got to be okay with that changing too, because we're becoming more of what God put us on earth to do. And it took, when you're so young, you just don't realize those things because you haven't had any life under your belt to understand that. And as you
Yeah.
start to get older and older, and you start to be like, oh, now these are the responsibilities that were put on me that I didn't understand at 20 years old. So
Yeah. Like I got to make sure my 17-year-old is going to be 18 in a year. I got to make sure he's going to be great for society. Right. Like those things matter a lot. My kid was just dancing in front of the door right there, my middle kid. Um, I'm, it's interesting to say passion based business because I think there's another side to that where, and this plays into what you were saying, but this just popped into my head is if you're more passionate about life than you are business, if we're going to separate the two, right? Business, owning a business, leading will always be a part of my life. And it could almost be anything. And I'd probably be passionate about it because I enjoy the aspect of creating and building and leading. But I'm more passionate about time with my wife and time with my kids and what we can build together. And so I've started, as my vision has changed, I've started becoming more interested or more passionate business wise about business. What's the best way to put this? Like boring businesses, because they could provide the lifestyle that I'm looking for with less time investment as opening a second location.
yep.
So to me, it could be you buy an undeveloped piece of land for really, really cheap, and then you let people store RVs on it or something like that. Like I mean, that's, I don't know what goes into that business, but you can buy undeveloped land very, very cheap, and you can utilize it in ways to make money depending on how you do it. So just ideas like that. I've started having those conversations with my wife because we've always talked about, since the vision has shifted significantly from having multiple locations to doing the best that we can with this one location, and then potentially owning an Airbnb or a few different real estate investments. That's what we're currently saving for. And just I've started to even shift the conversation away from that to those more boring, I hate to say passive because I feel like nothing's passive, but those more boring situations where, like, I don't know, storage units, owning storage units that are almost completely hands off, like lower risk investments, because they could potentially provide the lifestyle that we're looking for without as much time investment into people and training people and things like that. And I never thought I would be that way.
Well, to kind of like expand on the passion-based business idea, you're actually talking exactly about what a passion-based business is. The word
Mm-hmm.
passion-based is probably it's a catchy term more than anything, but it doesn't technically have to be something you're truly passionate about in terms of the um, the actual product. It's just, does it fit the type of life you're building? And so specifically, like, here's three components of it that fit kind of what you're talking about. One is flexibility. You want a business
Mhm.
that's super flexible for your schedule. Two, profitability. The business should be built around a 50% profit margins. So businesses create a humongous amount of profitability.
It's big. Yeah.
Yep. And so that's a huge component of it. And the third thing that you kind of mentioned there was, what was it? No, I
Like
lost it.
time invested or.
Um, it'll come back to me. So there
Yeah.
was but kind of going into that, the passion based idea is what I kind of built this around. Is actually, I stole it from another guy that kind of laid out the kind of initial ideas of it and made sense to me. Was I'm less worried. I'm less. Oh, the idea was, it's a business you don't have. The third component is an idea, a business you don't have to exit. So almost all these businesses that we've been in part of, it's always been like, how do I get my exit plan? Because
Yeah.
this business can't make me enough money. Exit to the next thing. But the passion based business is like, how can I build a business that I can do until I'm 90 years old? And conceptually, you're not working till you're 90, but exactly what you're saying is, I want a business that I can make profit from until I'm 90, but I really don't have to work in the business that much, right? And so the idea is building a business that either, one, is scalable, that you can completely step away, or two, is like you can just keep doing forever and you really enjoy it. So there's two components to that. Like, I'm going to explain with my businesses is, we have our plumber domination and home services domination SEO agency. Hopefully none of my clients ever listen to this. I am not passionate about SEO for home services. No offense to them. I'm good at it. I'm not
Yeah.
passionate about it. But I don't really care about the passion there, because I know I'm serving somebody that needs help. That excites me. I know those guys need help.
Hmm.
But two, I know it's something that I can easily hand off to somebody at some point because it's easily systemizable. And three, it's super profitable. And so it fits those three in those things. I was never like, who I would have never guessed in my life that I was going to be serving this industry. But for me, on all the things that, when I put my skill sets and things I knew together, it worked really, really well. Plus, for me, home services will never, AI won't replace them. You're still going to have plumbers. You're still going to have electricians. Maybe I could be, the vision I'm seeing is different, but in my opinion, that should always be there. So because of that, these are going to be needed things. So that's something we can serve. So that's not passion based, but it's a business that, like, even when I retire, it's not like physically I have to go in and work for something like a gym where you actually have to physically have somebody on there. I just have to have these systems set up that somebody can run them for me. But the other one is like the Brotherhood Beyond Business. I see this business, I could actually be leading this business until I'm 90. My business advice is just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger over the next 50
Hmm.
years. So, like, I can actually stay in this business forever, because realistically, like, people are like, oh, he's out of the game. No, I'm just like, who doesn't want advice from Warren Buffett right now? Warren's what,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how old he's, in his 90s. I would take advice from him, right? I think a meeting with Warren Buffett for like 1 hour is like $15,000 or something like that, if he'll even accept it. But like, the idea is like, and that's probably relatively cheap, because he probably makes more than that in an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
But realistically, like, our values is going to keep adding as we continue to dive into this longer and longer term. So with conceptually on the passion based ideas, it doesn't have to be truly passionate, but like, the things you were mentioning was fit right in that category, where you want to build businesses that like have security, meaning like, hey, the boring part's the security part to it, right? Where it's like, these are going to stand the test of time. They're going to be, land's going to stand the test of time. And so things of that nature, you're kind of thinking about those. But I agree. I have moved my model from being like, I'm really passionate about fitness, to being like, I am passionate about I enjoy building businesses, but I'm going to build businesses with very specific security in them. And COVID really taught me that. COVID taught me
Hmm.
that I need to build security into being from the gym industry. I think a lot of us are like, we need to have more security. And so like, that's why I chose home services as my SEO agency instead of fitness businesses, because fitness businesses aren't as secure as home services are. We chose a SaaS company, GHL, a Go High Level. We built a Go High Level agency because it's an up and coming software that we can build SaaS into and create a sticky product that can last a long, long time. I'm working on an AI component right now with Nick Berry, who knows if that will launch or not, but if we are working on something that can help people grow personal brands faster. That one's probably relying on some different things that don't fit exactly in the passion base, but it's a very profitable model. And then the Brotherhood. And the Brotherhood's obviously still in that growth process, beginning growth process. But the idea is that one's going to be one that the passion is truly there, but the profitability and everything else is in that equation too. So it's like trying to find those businesses. And that's how my vision has changed. My vision has changed from something that was like, how do I make I think my vision before, honestly, Joe, was keeping up with the Joneses. Was the idea is like
Like
everybody,
status.
yeah, exactly. Everybody else is doing this. I can do this. Now it's like
Yeah.
I've gone through like, what does my family need from me, and what do I need from myself, and then just be okay with like building. I need the community the Brotherhood creates. I need the community of men talking about business. That excites me. That super gets me excited. I know it does to you as well. That's why we did this.
Yeah.
I need the security of the SEO agency and the SaaS. Those are the bottom line of my family's finances to be sticky, to stay long term, to make sure that we can take care of ourselves. There's nothing about either of those where I'm like super passionate, but I am very passionate about serving people, business owners. And I know we serve them really, really well. We're honest, we're straightforward. We're like the mechanic that you go to that his building's like falling apart, but he's going to like tell you, you don't need that part. Whereas you go
Yeah.
to the Ford dealership, the Ford dealership charges you $8,000. I'll use a perfect example. We have to have our transmission rebuilt in our Ford Explorer, which has only got 80,000 miles. We have to rebuild. Ford dealership, $9,000 to rebuild this transmission. Take it to the local transmission place, building not falling apart. It looks nice, but it doesn't have
Yeah.
a big
Yeah.
parking lot. It's not like super fancy. Just they're just a mom and pop place. 5,500 for doing that exact same thing. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea is that's who we are. We are the guy that we're that person. That's the level of service. We're going to tell you everything we need. We're not going to charge you anything extra. That fits in my core values of those kind of things. And that's kind of how I've allowed my vision to transform. And I'll be honest, in the next 2 to 3 years, that vision might keep transforming because I have some other ideas that I'd like to approach.
Mm-hmm.
But as these ideas come out, I've got to continue to like put them back against the passion-based business model. Like, do they fit into this equation? And then the second part is, do they fit this equation? Then two, with the multiple business I have, can I fit those all together? Kind of like what you talked about with like the second location, the capacity to handle more. Can I understand the capacity that comes from me over time?
Right on, man.
So for you, have you thought about like, okay, just like kind of ending this conversation out, have you thought about what the vision looks like you going forward from here? Like, is it like, because I know we talked about this at our live mastermind meeting about having like more finances for your family specifically is kind of a goal. Have you thought about, okay, because sometimes with real estate, it can take a while to build the capital to get the real estate, but then also the capital to work on the property, right? Get the property ready for putting, a building on it. Then the cost of actually putting buildings on it for that can be a pretty good investment. It's relatively cheap. Land is still relatively cheap, but then getting the land ready to go can be pretty expensive. So have you thought about things to create more capital for that?
Yeah. The biggest thing. So I was thinking about this. The biggest thing I've learned from myself, from experience, is to be patient. And I'm still not patient, but I'm more patient than I was, to not try to rush things in order to satisfy my opportunistic personality. So that feeds into what you're talking about with potentially buying land or and building a building on it for the business that I have, and then renting part of that building out to other businesses, or instead just saving money, and which we have been anyway, towards getting into some other type of real estate, like maybe an Airbnb, or potentially looking at some land for other reasons. So I don't think I think the vision right now is still the Airbnb route, because we can do that. We can probably at least break even at some point. And if we decide it's not for us, we can sell the house at some point. Like, we can try to sell it. And that's a vision that my wife and I share together. And I just want, at this point in my life, I want to make sure that we have a shared vision together. I think that's part of the glue that helps keep couples strong and helps keep them working together. We just had our 14-year anniversary yesterday, and because we were just on that trip before that for it. But I've just, we've been through a lot of tough stuff together as a couple over the years, just lots of tough stuff. And it's what led to me. There's nobody in this world, and I'm really comfortable with you and Danny and Jared and Mark, but there's nobody in this world that I trust more than my wife, to where it like feels like it lowers my stress levels as much. Like I just know no matter what, like I can go like this and like she'll be right there to have my back, right? And you guys will too. It's just a different part of life. We live together, you know what I mean? She's my wife, so it's a different thing. And it's just this high level of comfort that's come from all the struggles that we've had together. Because we've been together since we were really young. We had kids really young, and just had to learn a lot of stuff together. And having that vision together, that's what's going to keep that Airbnb in the vision. Like I maybe would move on to something like a storage unit facility in my personal vision, or something that I could figure out that's a little bit less, I would call it lower risk, but still fuels what the lifestyle that we want to live. But she is really interested in the Airbnb side of things also. So that's where my vision goes right now, is at least us giving that a shot and seeing if that turns into what we love to do. Because we tend to do pretty well when we team up on things business wise too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's always good. Like, I mean, I'm a big business partner person, like, and
Yeah.
obviously your wife can be a business partner. And so I agree, that it can definitely be a value add. It's also like, teaming up with the right people that this is like kind of like the last part of advice for people teaming. I think business partners can be really valuable. I'm honestly a big person. I'm big with business partners. But you also got to be I have learned my lesson because I have had multiple business partners and don't
Mm-hmm.
have some of those business partners anymore. And my main lesson is one is that do you already know this person will go through hell with you? Like you're kind of saying there, like you need to know somebody that, because all entrepreneurs know business is hell. It is a fire you're going through, and it is not fun. There are some fun things, and but it's interesting because if you ask an average person just like go through an entrepreneur day, they would be like, oh my gosh, this is rough. And there's so many like obstacles you run into every single day. But that's kind of the thing that fires us up. It's like, oh man, because you overcome so many obstacles. It's like, you just like, when things get harder, you just keep moving forward. Not everybody's wired that way. So you got to
Yeah.
find people that are wired to like keep overcoming the crap that just keeps hitting you in the face. I know for my business partners over the years, like some of them weren't willing to go through that. And other ones, once they went through that and got hit in the face enough times, got hit in the face big enough, they stepped up. But originally they weren't stepping up. Eventually they stepped up because they got hit in the face big enough that they're just like, man, I'm either going to get out of this game or I'm going to just keep stepping up. And they do. So do be cautious about who you partner up with, because especially when you're building a business, there's a lot of like things that are tied together that you got to be conscious of. Like Alex Ramosi tells some stories about business partners he had that actually literally stole his whole like finances from him. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to be very careful on those sides. But if you find the right person that you're willing to go through the fire with, and it makes business really, really fun. And for me, it's like I have, with the Brotherhood, I got Joe and I got Danny, and then on the Level Up, I got Nathan and I got Danny, and then GCP, I got Nathan and myself. And so like each one of those, I have strong, strong friendships with, and I would go through hell for them as a friend, let alone as a business partner. So it's like, that gives you the ability to like partner up with people, someone that you're like, hey, I won't fail you because I know you won't fail me, kind of idea. So this is a good
Yep.
conversation today, guys. Like, don't let your vision hold you back. That's kind of like, I think a little bit of what we're talking about here is like, sometimes you're like, this is the vision I'm going for. And because that's the only path that you laid out and you don't want to be the person that fails on your vision, you like allow it not to like deviate when it needs to be deviating as your life kind of changes and modifies a little bit. And, other people are going to say complete opposite of this. That's totally fine. That's their opinion. This is our opinion on the idea that
Mm-hmm.
like, we have learned that the vision that we created 10 years ago is definitely not the vision we're going on in the future. And maybe 10 years from now, that might look a whole lot different. Plus, life changes. My 10-year vision in my late 50s, I guess 10 years from now would be like my late 40s, probably be different because I'm moving more towards that retirement age. And I might have to have different securities here versus that I need right now. So
Yeah, man.
cool. All right, guys. Thanks for jumping on this podcast with us today. Have a great day. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay locked in. Brotherhood is more than business. It's about leading from the front, leveling up in every domain, and becoming the CEO of your own life. Step up, execute, and we'll see you in the next one.